Dearly beloved, we are gathered here to talk about the movies. Welcome back to another episode of The Movie Proposal. I am Skye Jitani. Joining me is Josh Lindsay.
Hey, everybody.
And Jason Rugg.
Hello.
So this week we're going to do something a little bit different, but before we get into what's different, we're going to get into something old.
Yes.
So do you have a proposal of something old you want to recommend?
I do, and I'm excited about this one. Today we're talking about fall movies. This was a fall movie from 1985. I was 11 years old.
Okay.
It's the movie Clue.
Oh, yeah.
I love this movie. And what's fun is my kids just got into the board game Clue in the last few months, so we've been playing about it, talking about it. I've mentioned this movie to them. But this came out in the fall of 1985. Stars Tim Curry, Madeline Kahn, Christopher Lloyd, Michael McKean, Martin Mull, and
isn't there talk of a remake?
Oh, I've not heard that.
I thought I heard that.
I hope not. I think the original is fantastic.
Yeah.
It is. And here's the thing about this movie. So,
by the way, the only board game based movie
that was any good.
That was any good.
Yes. And so, if you haven't seen this film, you have to rent it or download it or whatever. At the end of the film, they solve the murder, and then you think it's over. Mm-hmm. And then they go, and then it pops up. That's one way it could have ended, and then they have another way, which is brilliant. And then they have a third way on how it really ended. And so that is just so clever. But what I had heard, and I don't know if this is true, is when it was in theaters, they had one ending, but it was a different ending depending on what screening you went to.
Really?
So it was my aunt and uncle who were the ones that told me about this film. I think I saw one ending in the theaters, but I thought that was brilliant, especially for 85 to like.
Because then you get together with your friends to talk about the movie and you're arguing because you don't have the same ending.
Right. And it's just like the board game because it always ends differently, right? But it is, to me, it's up there with The Princess Bride with quotable lines and just great characters. And I can't wait to sit down to watch this with my kids probably sometime later this year.
If I recall, there's some kind of, this is total 80s, but there's some questionable content there as far as, but that's an 80s movie. It's probably rated PG.
It is.
Yeah.
I felt like I was reading to see what the content was. And I think it's more suggestive type stuff.
It's innuendo and things like that.
Would go over most people's or kids' heads, I would imagine.
That's a good recommendation. Oh, I like that. I'm on board.
All right.
Okay, I need to preface mine a little bit and explain how I came to this one. So there was this fantastic article a couple weeks ago. Let me see if I can find it in the Atlantic about. Oh shoot! I'm sorry. I'm totally unprepared here. Here it is. In the Atlantic by Jean. I don't know how to say her last name. Twenge, Twenge. Twenge. Okay. So she wrote this really fascinating article called "Have Smartphones Destroyed a Generation?"
Okay. Oh, it's asking.
It's asking. I mean, it's brilliant. Every parent needs to read this article in the Atlantic. Okay. So number one, you got to read that. But one of the most disturbing parts of the article, and it's something that I've been looking into for a while now, is suicide rates among teenage girls is at a 40-year high.
Wow.
And here's the most interesting part, though. Suicide rates among teenagers has been declining since the 1980s. Until 2007. And then it started skyrocketing. And now it's at the highest level in 40 years. What happened in 2007?
Smartphones?
Smartphones came out. And so there's been a massive increase in depression rates, suicidal, and obviously correlation is not causation, so there's still a lot of research, but I think there's a lot to that. So anyway, I'm reading this article and it got me thinking about suicide. Not personally, but like in general as a trend of what's going on.
I understand.
And the way suicide is now talked about in our culture. And if you recall, there's that series on Netflix, The 13 Reasons Why.
Oh, yeah.
It's been very controversial.
Because she killed herself, right?
Right, and then kind of leaves these videos explaining why, and like teens are apparently huge into this. It's kind of weird, and I haven't watched it. But anyway, there's this whole anti-bullying movement, and there's a lot of sensitivity around any time a kid mentions suicide. And I mean, it's been an issue in my daughter's own high school in the last year. And so it's just like, and I have a teenage daughter, so like all this is on my mind. So in the midst of this, I'm thinking about what movie from the past do I want to spring forward for something old.
Is it Heathers?
No, it isn't. Although that did come to mind. So I'm not necessarily recommending this movie, but I think what it illustrates is how much we've changed in our attitudes about suicide and teen suicide in particular in the last 30 years.
All right.
Better Off Dead. So, are you familiar with the movie?
Yeah.
This is from 1985.
1985, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's John Cusack.
Okay.
It's a comedy. It's about a teenage guy whose girlfriend breaks up with him, and he goes through all these comical attempts at suicide. But if you take the suicide component out of the movie, it's absolutely hysterical. It really is. It's got great one-liners, and it's completely 80s,
right,
like through and through. But you realize, like, that movie or the premise of that movie would be utterly unacceptable today.
Correct, yeah.
Completely and utterly unacceptable.
Well, it's probably stemming from a teenager, something happens, and they just like, oh, I wish I was dead, right? You know, like that's, I've heard my own children say this, you know, like just, and it's not a serious contemplation of suicide. It's like, I want to hide away from the world because I'm embarrassed or I'm heartbroken or whatever. And so who is that who did that?
Who directed it?
Yeah, or wrote it?
Savage Steve Holland.
Oh, okay.
So it was there's so many quirky things in this movie. Like there's a newspaper boy, a paper boy who's owed $2.
Oh, this is the best part.
Yeah, and the whole movie he's like haunting the main character, like, I want my $2. And then there's a weird animation bit in the middle with some Van Halen music.
Is there a foreign exchange student in this one?
Yes. There's a French foreign exchange student. There are these two Japanese car racers who pull up all the time, but one of them doesn't speak English, and the other one only learned to speak English by listening to Wide World of Sports on ABC, so he speaks exactly like Howard Cosell. I mean, it's just weird movie, but it is really, really funny. And so I remember watching this movie back in the 80s, and I loved it, and now I'm looking at it as a 40-something-year-old parent of a teenager in the 21st century, in which suicide is a significant problem and issue among teens. I'm going, oh my gosh, this is horrific.
Right.
But it is a little glimpse. It's a time capsule kind of movie that takes you back to the 80s to make you realize what it is we kind of came from.
And John Cusack.
So
at his best, probably.
It probably was at his best. Okay, so we're on to something new, but we're going to do something a little different this week. Rather than recommending or talking about one new movie, we've decided to do a fall preview and discuss all the upcoming movies that we have not yet seen, which are coming out between September and December, and which ones really have caught our attention that we want to put on your radar screen so that you might even plan to see some of these. And let me begin by saying we're going to go through this chronologically, and I want to preface up front about my list. I just decided I'm not going to really delve into Star Wars, Marvel, because I mean we know those things are coming, and
it's a given. We're going to go see them.
It is probably given, especially because of our kids dragging us there. And so,
well, kids or no kids.
And I have already voiced my reservations about the new Star Wars movie. I have concerns.
What are
a previous
those concerns?
episode. Well, I just thought it was too derivative.
Oh, right.
There's so many like references to Empire Strikes Back, and I'm worried about what they're doing with Luke Skywalker and making him this weird dark gray Jedi. I just and dissolving the light, dark, good, evil dichotomy of Star Wars. Yeah. So I've said that in a previous podcast. I will definitely see the film. I'm just like, we're not going to delve into. I'm not going to get into those like huge Disney blockbuster kind of movies. But
I'm with you.
So anyway, okay. So let's start with movies coming out in September. Do you have any on your list that you want to highlight?
September. Let's see what's coming. Actually, there aren't really a whole lot coming out. I know the big one that's coming out is the movie It, but I am not a horror movie fan.
Right.
I mean, this looks like good, as in like scary good.
And it's getting reviews like it's the scariest thing man has ever created.
Right. And I'm not
apart
going
from the Kardashians.
Is that a quote or is that a Skye Jitani?
No, that was no.
All right. No, it looks great. I'm not going to see it because I can't.
Right.
I can't do horror.
You'll have to crawl into your parents' bed.
Right. The other one is Mother, which looks intriguing, and I will also not see this film.
I have not heard of this one.
Oh my! It's Darren Aronofsky.
Oh gosh, Noah.
Right. Which I liked Noah. I liked Black Swan. He's done some other ones that I've liked. But once again, this looks like a horror-ish type film. It's a husband and wife. What's her name? Jennifer Lawrence is in it, and some people come to the house.
Oh, I think I did see a thing about
So
this.
I don't know if it's like a home invasion. It's just weird how they come in, and it almost looks cultish. I'm not even sure what's going on, but it does look like a horror type film. Once again, I will pass on it because I'm not into horror at all.
Well,
But I'm intrigued, but go ahead.
So there's two movies that I have on my list in September that I am intrigued to see. They're not horror movies. The first one, September 15th, Rebel in the Rye.
I do not know this one.
Okay, so this is the life of celebrated but reclusive author J.D. Salinger, who gained worldwide fame with the publication of his novel Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey co-stars in this.
I'm sold.
Yeah, it looks really, really interesting. I mean, you'll see a theme in some of the movies I'm going to recommend, but it's another one of those, the true story behind it kind of reminds me of Saving Mr. Banks. Remember the story, like the true story behind Mary Poppins, or there was another one, Finding Neverland. The true story behind the creation of
that was a great one.
Peter Pan. So this is the true story behind Catcher in the Rye, and it gets into his background and his experience in the war, I believe World War II, and his struggles as an author. So as a writer, not that I'm a novelist, but it's just the trailer looked really good, and I love Kevin Spacey in anything, and he's not the main star, he's a co-star, but that looked good. Here's the other one, and this is probably, of everything on my list, the one I'm most intrigued by.
Of all of them?
Of all, not Rebel in the Rye. It's September 29th. The movie's called Lucky. Did you see that?
I know I did. I can't, remind me, what is it?
Okay, it looks like a little indie film. And the description is simply this: the spiritual journey of a 90-year-old atheist.
I know, I did not see
it.
this.
And it looks really, really funny. This is not a documentary. It's a fictional work.
Right.
But Lucky, it looks fascinating to me, and the trailer was fantastic.
David Lynch is actually an actor in this film.
Yeah.
The creator of Twin Peaks he didn't do anything with it. He's an actor in it.
Yeah, he is in it.
John Carroll Lynch is directing him.
Right, and he was one of the brothers, the McDonald's brothers in The Founder.
Oh, okay.
He was Mac, the big guy.
Yeah.
He's the director of it.
Interesting.
So I don't know anything about the message of this film. Like, will Christians watch this and be like, wow, what an amazing thing? Before he dies, a 99-year-old guy becomes a Christian. I don't know what's going to happen, but it looked really fun and weird and interesting. And what I've read about it has kind of hooked me.
Well, the main actor, Harry Dean Stanton, he's an alien. He's in a lot of films.
Yeah, he's been around forever.
Yeah,
he plays a 99-year-old.
Okay, he looks 99.
Yeah. So, and the other thing I'm intrigued by is it's again one of those rare movies that is a truly original story. It's not based on a book. It's not based on a prior movie. It's not based on a TV show. It's not a character we've all known forever. It's original, and that's so rare these days.
Right.
So, Lucky, September 29th.
All right. Should we go into October?
October.
All right. Top of the list, Blade Runner.
Oh yeah.
Were you a fan of Blade Runner?
I saw it when I was a kid. It never hooked me. Maybe I have to go back and watch it again.
It's a movie I have to see every so many years because I just forget a lot about it. But it's very intriguing. I grew up as a huge Harrison Ford fan, and this was right behind Indiana Jones and Star Wars as a cool sci-fi kind of hero type character. But it's dark, like it's literally dark. The whole movie is it's like shot in the dark. But it's very it's futuristic. It's sci-fi. Who are the robots and that sort of thing. And I'm not a diehard fan, but I was intrigued when they said they were making this. I also like Ryan Gosling. And
Hey Baby.
what's that one from?
Thing?
Hey Baby.
Yeah.
What movie is that from?
It's like a bunch of memes.
Oh, okay.
You're a bird, I'm a bird.
Anyway,
I got to catch up on my memes.
Yeah.
All right. So Blade Runner 2049 is the one I'm looking forward to in October.
That's your only October.
And My Little Pony.
Of course.
I'm just kidding. Not My Little Pony.
Yeah, it's right. It's there though. I see it there.
Yeah. Well, it's listed with all of them. So the other one that it looks interesting is The Mountain Between Us.
Okay.
That's the girl from Titanic. What's her name?
Kate
Winslet. Yeah, she stars in it, and then the guy who, gosh, I need to look at my actors.
Shouldn't it be the iceberg between us?
Or the door between us.
That's right. That was a good one. She and this other guy crash land on a mountain, and they.
This is with Idris Elba.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was going to say Thor.
And they have to someone has to eat the other person. Or something, right?
It's a survival story, but I think it's also a love story, and it looks really good. I mean, it's like a good adventure survival story.
I could see after the cannibalism has occurred and one of them's been eaten, the other one's picking their teeth and just saying, "You complete me."
Wow, that would.
Survival stories make me depressed.
Really?
They do.
What if they survive?
It's still depressing. I don't know why. When I see those pop up on Netflix, what's that one with Liam Neeson with the gray, the gray, right? I just see I'm like, I can't. I don't have the emotional energy for it. I don't know why. Or Alive. Remember Alive?
I passed on that one.
Oh my gosh, that's a true story about the plane crash in the mountain of the Andes in South America. And they did eat each other.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't do these. So, is that your October list?
I mean, there's more coming out. There's some. Oh, Same Kind of Different as Me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's based on a book, right?
Right. Yeah.
Is it a true story?
I believe so.
Okay. But what's intriguing is it seems to have Christian themes,
right?
And it's got great actors.
Who's in? Is it? It's Kinnear, isn't it?
Greg Kinnear.
Yes. He also was in the Boy Who Goes to Heaven and Comes Back a King or whatever that movie was. He did
Boy
another
That Goes to Heaven.
You know, one of those.
Heaven is for real?
Whatever, yeah, one of those.
He comes back a king?
I'm just making it. I don't know. The one of those heavenly tourist movies. So I don't know if he's kind of gotten into this pseudo-Christian genre.
I think it's it's work. He's getting work.
That's true.
Dennis Quaid is coming out in a Christian film.
Dennis Quaid?
Yeah.
Not Randy.
No. Dennis Quaid. He it's the one about the song I Can Only Imagine.
I don't know.
So you know the song Mercy Me, I Can Only Imagine? I'm not going to sing it. You guys have to know I Can Only Imagine.
I don't.
You know what? Oh my gosh.
Now you're singing it.
Yeah, I know. Because you're looking at me like, what are you talking about?
There's a movie about a song?
About the writing of the song. And so the guy from Mercy Me, the group, I think he had a really rough relationship with his dad. The dad is played by Dennis Quaid.
Okay.
And, everything ends happily. I mean, they already tell you in the previews, right. Dennis Quaid turns around.
It has to.
Right. But I mean, it is, I mean, it would probably fall under a cheesy Christian song, but it's really good. I mean, it is one of those songs that you're like, it's in the car and Caleb, and you're like, yeah, it's a pretty good song, even though it's like, they play it all the time and it's great, but.
Is that this fall too?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know the date, but anyway, back to Kinnear. Yes. He's been in a string of films that are kind of like not mainstream Hollywood. And I think he's getting what he can take. But this one is getting a lot of buzz. The story seems fantastic. It's real uplifting. Guy's homeless, and they develop a relationship with this couple, I think, who are struggling in their marriage or something like that. And it seems like a really sweet story.
Okay. So I mentioned earlier the Rebel and the Rye about J.D. Salinger. Here's a related thematically, October 13th, Goodbye, Christopher Robin.
Oh, yeah, that looks good.
So this is the behind-the-scenes look at the life of the author and creator of Winnie the Pooh, with stories that were inspired by his son. And the kid that they've got to play Christopher Robin, has... His dimples are like the Marianas Trench. I mean, they are so deep, the dimples on this kid's face, you cannot find a cuter kid anywhere on the planet. So it's another one of those... guy went off to war, had horrible experiences, comes back, probably has some kind of PTSD, and ends up creating Winnie the Pooh as some kind of therapeutic, outlet. But it also looked like a really good film.
I hope so. It does have that BBC quality.
Yeah.
There he is. You got cute kid.
Yeah, look at those dimples.
Man, he's got Disney written all over him.
I know. Yeah. I mean, he looks like he was animated.
This is not Disney, but
no.
yeah.
And the thing that worries me about that kid,
she's too cute.
He is so cute. It's going to be like an Anakin Skywalker story.
Oh.
Jake Lloyd or whatever his name was.
Schizophrenic?
Well, no, or like Macaulay Culkin.
You mean in real life?
In real life,
like he's going to struggle.
He's going to have this phenomenal child acting career, but he's going to probably grow up and not be as cute.
Yeah,
and everyone's be like, oh, I don't want. And then he's going to be like depressed,
like Ben from Growing Pains.
Is that one? Another one?
Sorry, there's a reference.
I know who you're talking about, but I didn't know his story.
Yeah.
Okay, so Goodbye Christopher Robin. And same day, October 13th, Marshall.
Oh, yeah.
So Marshall is the story of a young Thurgood Marshall, the first African-American Supreme Court justice, as he battles through one of his career-defining cases. Later on, he ended up arguing the Brown versus Board of Education, which desegregated the schools. But again, the trailer looked really good. Marshall's played by Chadwick Boseman, who's the guy who plays Black Panther in the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love history. I love historical movies. I'm sure there will be liberties taken with this to make it interesting. Josh Gad is in it too.
Olaf,
yeah, Josh Gad is in it. But it looks really intriguing, and obviously it deals with themes of race and history, and a lot of people. I remember Thurgood Marshall. He was a Supreme Court justice. I don't know when he died. Probably in the 90s. I want to think.
I don't know.
But you see him as this old stodgy guy sitting on the Supreme Court. But the way he's depicted in the film, he was quite a kind of hustler. He was. It looks really, really intriguing. So, the two on my list then for October are Goodbye Christopher Robin and Marshall.
Okay, I missed this one. I didn't see it, and I have to mention this. Suburbicon. I saw the poster for that. What is it? So, first of all, it stars Matt Damon. And my proposal was going to be Matt Damon's the guy to watch this fall, because he's in 2 movies coming out that I'm very intrigued to see. One of them is Suburbicon.
But are they going to be as good as The Great Wall? That's my question.
I don't know. I didn't see The Great Wall, so I can't say. But this is a Joel and Ethan Coen film. So they wrote it. George Clooney directs it, and it's about a 1950s idealistic, small town, and there's a home invasion. So it's the Coen brothers film, so there's going to be death and blood and murder and all that stuff, and juxtaposed to this peaceful.
Is it a comedy?
I think it's a dark comedy.
Okay.
It's a crime drama mystery.
Yeah,
They don't say comedy.
No, and thriller. No comedy.
No comedy.
The trailer seemed to have
dark comedy though. There.
Oh.
Yeah, it seemed to have
Not the genre.
a sense of humor to it.
Well, usually Coen movies do.
Right. So I'm sure it's. I don't even know if it's rated R or not, but I'm sure it is. It looks rated R. But it's got a great cast. Oscar Isaac is in it. Julianne Moore. And once again, all you had to say was Coen Brothers, and I'm there. So
Okay.
I can't wait. And we'll talk more about it later, but go ahead. We can move on to next month.
November?
Yep.
Okay. What you got?
Well, let's see here. There's a bunch coming out. I mean, Justice League is coming out. I'll definitely see that.
No.
But the one I think I'm very interested in seeing is Murder on the Orient Express.
Yeah. With Daisy Ridley, who is Rey from the Star Wars new Star Wars movies. Josh Gad is in that.
Yep. Johnny Depp,
Judi Dench.
There's a bunch more actors that are.
Michelle Pfeiffer, Willem Dafoe, Penelope Cruz.
Who's the director? Because he also stars in it.
Oh, Matthew Branagh.
Branagh.
Kenneth
Branagh.
Branagh. Sorry.
So I read this book as a kid, which
Agatha
I was
Christie.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And
there was a movie made years and years and years
It
ago.
was. I think I saw it. And there's a famous actor who, he did several Agatha Christie movies, Hercule Poirot. And my grandmother was really into that, stuff you'd see on PBS. And so, so I, stayed the night of my grandparents, and they'd had that on. And so this kind of has some history for me. So, but I really like Branagh. I mean, I think he's a great actor, and I think he's a good director. But the cast is superb. I love the story. It looks fantastic.
Yeah, you could hang a coat on his mustache. That's right. When you see that, it's amazing.
And it's coming out in November, which means they feel really confident about this film. Yeah. So I'm hoping it's good.
Good. Okay, I got 2 in November.
All right.
And one of these I have very mixed feelings about. November 3rd, LBJ.
With Woody Harrelson?
That's why I have mixed feelings about it.
He's a great actor.
So again, another historical, film about Lyndon Baines Johnson, and it kind of basically covers his whole life. And he is one of the most colorful characters who's ever occupied the White House. Yeah. Just get on YouTube and listen to some of the behind-the-scenes recordings from the Oval Office, especially when he's getting measured for his pants. Highly entertaining. In fact, I'd say he's probably the most colorful president we've had until Trump.
Okay.
But anyway, Although LBJ I think is more competent, but we don't have to get into politics. So my mixed feelings about this film are. It's directed by Rob Reiner.
Yeah, which could be really great or really
I
bad.
like his movies for the most part. I like Rob Reiner's stuff. It's the Woody Harrelson part.
Why? He's a great actor.
He can be a good actor. I don't deny that. But as I watched the trailer, I just kept seeing Woody Harrelson. Like I wasn't really getting lost in the character of LBJ. And that's always been my problem when a really well-known actor plays a really well-known historical figure. I just can't. It's really hard to get past that. So there was a. I think
he's
it was
wearing a lot of makeup, and you can tell.
Right, but it's still Woody Harrelson through and through. I think there was an HBO show. I don't have HBO, but I caught it on Netflix or something where Bryan Cranston played LBJ.
I was just pulling that up right now,
and that one was I really like.
It's all the way.
Yeah, and Bryan Cranston, like he just dissolves into the character.
That's a fantastic.
It is amazing his portrayal.
It's a movie. It's a TV movie.
TV movie, right? So. I was kind of expecting this LBJ to kind of do that, but it's Woody Harrelson playing LBJ, so that kind of made me a little. November 17th.
Okay.
Wonder.
Oh, that's the one with Julie Roberts.
Julie Roberts and Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
It's a book that 2 of my kids have read, and my youngest daughter is reading it right now.
Okay.
I'm not the most sentimental person. No, you know that. I watched the trailer and I'm getting teary-eyed just watching the trailer.
Yeah.
And so it's about a boy who has significant facial deformities. He's had lots of surgeries and he's never been to school. And so for reasons, I haven't read the book, but for reasons that we'll find out, his parents take him to the public school, elementary school. I don't know what grade he's in, like 5th grade or something. And it's how will kids react to his presence and how will he respond to their responses. And so it's one of those kind of just heart-wrenching, but looks really good, and my kids are looking forward to seeing it because they love the book. Again, the boy they've got
very cute
is cute and just endearing, and so that one looks really of everything on my list, that feels like the most family-oriented.
Oh, definitely.
Other than Star Wars and superhero stuff. So
2 quick ones.
Yeah.
Pixar's next movie is Coco.
Coco.
And I love Pixar. They've had a couple misses recently, not terrible, but just not to the high standard they've had. The next one's Coco takes place I think in Mexico and has to deal with I don't know the Land of the Dead.
It's about the Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead. Okay.
Which if I were to make a proposal today, my proposal is this will be the next movie that conservative evangelicals go absolutely ape over.
Really?
Because it's going to have to do with necromancy and sorcery and communication with the dead, and it has to do with Mexican immigrants. I mean, it's just going to be like the whole thing is going to go crazy.
It has a really sweet. I mean, it's a family story, and about this kid's dream to be a musician and how it relates to his family and his history. And so it seems like it's got a lot of potential. But my kids have seen the trailer and they're just like, I don't get it. Like they have no interest at all in seeing this film. And all you have to do is say Pixar. I'm like, let's go. But I'll be curious to see how well this does. I
will too. And I'll be curious to know what the response will be from, evangelical family ministries kinds of stuff. Because, that's my list. I don't have anything for December. Do you have anything? I mean, obviously Star Wars is coming out in December.
Yeah, The Disaster Artist.
Which is what?
That's the one, we talked about this, the movie, what's the movie called?
The Room.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. This is a story about the movie.
It did not hit hard.
Right. So so there's a movie called The Room, not the Academy Award-winning movie.
By the same title.
Right. This one is known as the worst movie ever made. And when was it released, Jason?
I think it was 2003.
Okay.
Yeah, 2003.
By a very odd individual. And I've not seen the film. I've just seen scenes from the film. And it looks horrible on every level possible. Mm-hmm. Acting, lighting, writing, everything. And a book was written by one of the co-actors about the making of this film. It was called The Disaster Artist. And now James Franco has made the movie called The Disaster Artist, which is based on the book, which is about making the movie The Room. And the trailer, all the trailer is just a scene from that movie, and it is hilarious. And there's already Oscar buzz
So could this possibly happen where an Academy Award-winning movie made about the worst movie ever made?
Right.
That would be weird.
That's what they're talking about.
That's almost biblical in its framing, like the redemption of something that you think is irredeemable.
Right.
Could do a whole sermon on that.
So here's the thing. It's James Franco, which to me, he is a great actor, but he can be hit or miss.
He's a weird dude.
Right. He is a weird dude. And so he can do things that are phenomenal, and he can do things like he just tried it and he missed by a mile, right? But I'm hoping for good things for that one. The other one is The Shape of Water.
Oh, yeah.
That looks bizarre, and I can't wait.
I'm pretty sure water takes whatever shape the container it is in has.
I understand, but that's the idea. Like, I think that's the theme.
Unless it's frozen.
Man, it keeps getting deeper.
Keeps getting deeper.
But, okay, who directed it?
That's Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's weird too.
Right. And so he did...
Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah. That's a weird one, but it's great. It's great.
He also did Pacific Rim,
which was I didn't quite understand why he did that.
And he was originally tagged with the Hobbit movies. He helped the early work on the Hobbit films, and then
jump ship.
Yeah, Peter Jackson took him back or something like that.
So the trailer looks fantastic. It's very quirky. Like kind of like Dark Crystal, Jim Henson, weird, like Labyrinth, the one with was that David Bowie?
Yeah,
it almost looks like one of those weird French films, like Delicatessen or something like that.
One of those weird French films. It's pretty much weird French films.
So I'm sure it's not going to do great box office wise, but I'll be curious to see the reviews, and I probably won't.
Isn't it based on a book or something?
I have no idea. The trailer just looks intriguing. Okay. It's about a girl who gets hired to do a job and like just janitorial work, but there's this creature, it's like a sea creature living in this tank, and she is told not to go near it, but she befriends it. So it's kind of like one of those things where like it's being mistreated.
That's what you call befriended?
Ew.
I guess she falls in love with it.
All right.
So she sees beyond its ugliness or its freakishness.
This doesn't look like a kid's movie.
No.
Okay. This is like Splash with fangs.
It's rated R for sexual content and graphic nudity.
Oh, well.
Wow. Okay, Josh.
See, French.
Oh, wow.
Well.
I said I was intrigued. All right. Okay, the last one for December is the other Matt Damon movie, Downsizing.
Okay.
Have you know about this one?
No.
Oh my, cannot wait.
Is this like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? Sequel?
Yes, but the adult version. So this is Alexander Payne. He made About Schmidt, Nebraska, The Descendants, 3 of like the near top of my all-time favorite films. Very interesting, kind of off-kilter films about just relationships between people and usually dysfunctional family relationships in odd circumstances. Like something happens and triggers an event, and they have to deal with something. So these characters who are related to each other, who have dysfunction in their lives, weather a storm. And in all 3 of those films, like did you see The Descendants?
I did.
Like
that's with Clooney.
Yeah, George Clooney. So his wife is in a coma,
right?
And she's probably going to die. And he finds out that she's been unfaithful to him at the same time. And he's got these daughters. One's a teenager, one's like a preteen, and he doesn't have the best relationship with them. And so he's trying to figure that out. So he's dealing with all this craziness and this tragedy, right?
Right.
And they go through this they weather the storm. And it's not really a movie you would describe, and you're like, yeah, can't wait. Right. But at the end of the film, what's so brilliant about Alexander Payne is he tells this story and he weaves it in such a way that at the end, he's so subtle that there's a scene that the way the movie The Descendant ends, and I won't describe it in case you haven't seen it. It's just a boring, nothing happens. The camera doesn't even move. It just sits there and you're watching the characters do the most boring thing ever. And then it ends. And I got hit with this powerful punch of like, that was brilliant. My wife Angie just started crying right then. Like, I'd like just to see like, wow, like the way you can see this dysfunction and hurt and how they came together. And it wasn't some cheesy. There was no big musical score that no one was dying in someone's arms and saying "I love you," and it was like
So it's the power of subtlety.
oh my gosh.
Okay, so what's up with the downsizing?
Oh right, it's the downsizing. So now
get
this
back-
one is a little quirky. It's in the future, and they figure out how to shrink people because there's a overpopulation problem.
So you just make them smaller.
4 inches tall.
That will create other problems, won't it?
Well, I'm sure we'll find out.
like insects and things like that.
Well, I think they live in an enclosed dome, right? So like there's an overpopulation problem, and to solve this, they shrink people, and so they can live. As far from their perspective, everything's the same, right? You know, they live in a town, you know, with trees and lakes and roads and buildings and jobs and stuff like that, but they're just small.
This is like Superman had that city.
Superman.
You know, there's that. Remember that? He has that like Kandor. It's the city of Kandor. He has like this little city that is populated with real people and all that he keeps in his.
This sounds vaguely
in his Fortress of Solitude, because it's a whole part of the mythology of
This
Superman.
is the comic book, or is this from
no
Saturday
comic
morning
book,
cartoon?
Comic book.
Okay.
Mostly. Okay.
Wow.
All right. So what's the and this is
So
Matt Damon.
great. So Alexander Payne directs it, wrote it. Matt Damon stars in it. Kristen Wiig is in it.
That does sound intriguing.
Neil Patrick Harris, James Vanderbeek,
Christoph Waltz.
Christoph Waltz. Love Christoph Waltz. Laura Dern is in it.
Jason Sudeikis. He has a cool first name.
Oh yes, another Saturday Night Live. That's come out in December, so they're
right.
very confident on this one as well. So.
Okay, so we've given you like a bazillion movies to think about. We are not going to touch on all of these when they come out or do episodes on all these. We will definitely hit some of them. But when you first proposed this idea of let's do a fall preview, because there wasn't anything this week that we'd seen, I was like, oh, there's nothing coming out.
Right.
But I was actually fascinated. There's actually some really intriguing, wonderful movies on the docket here. So should be happy about that. Okay. Something Blue. Oh no, sorry, Something Borrowed. We got to make this quick though.
Okay, we'll do it quick. So there was an article from ABC News, Fall Movie Preview, Hollywood confronts the Trump era. So Hollywood often makes films in response to things going on in our world,
Right,
whether it's
of course.
war or politics or social commentary type stuff. And what's interesting is it's happening at a faster pace.
Right.
So some of these films that are coming out this fall had already been in the works for years, but some of them were fast-tracked as basically because Trump got elected. One of them being Suburbicon. There's another one Clint Eastwood is doing, the 1517 to Paris. That's the one about the terrorist attack on the train that the Americans...
Oh yeah. That was really recent.
Right, and get this. The real-life heroes are playing themselves in the movie.
That's weird.
It is. But it's Clint Eastwood, which he makes great films, so
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by
Yeah,
that.
but he's getting old.
He...
Like he's talking to chairs and things.
Well, that was but he still made great films since then.
I guess you're right.
And then Spielberg's got one coming out, The Post. That's about the Washington Post in 1971 with the Pentagon Papers.
Oh, yeah.
There's another one where Deep Throat. Liam Neeson plays the character Deep Throat.
And this is all if you are unaware about the Watergate scandal with
Right.
Richard Nixon. Right.
So a lot of things just dealing with FBI and the White House and dealing with loss of life in battle. There's one, Last Flag Flying, I think it's called. Bryan Cranston, Lawrence Fishburne is in it, and they're dealing with the loss of a child who was in one of the recent wars, and that sort of thing. And so anyway, there's just a big response to not only, and this is normal that Hollywood would make these types of films, but they're doing it very quickly.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that's good.
It's interesting though.
It is interesting. But usually to get any kind of helpful perspective on historical events, time has to pass. Because if you're making them in almost real time,
Right.
it's more propaganda than it is insight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think it would be horrible if a movie came out in the next year about the Obama presidency.
Right.
Right? I'd rather see that in 20 years when we get some historical perspective
Right.
and go, okay, what? So that's, yeah, whatever.
There was a...
and we obviously know Hollywood hates Trump. So
Right.
if there's any agenda here, it's going to be a negative one.
Right. Well, the other, like a good example of Hollywood doing a bad job of it, Company Men. Did you see that one? Ben Affleck.
Oh, I heard about it. Yeah.
A big cast. Tommy Lee Jones. I can't think of all the other actors in it, but Ben Affleck is one of the.
Cooper.
Who is?
Chris Cooper.
Chris Cooper.
I don't really see anyone else that I recognize.
Ben Affleck was the main lead in there, but it's about a company and they have major layoffs, and so
Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner's in it, and so they're dealing with corporate America laying people off. Mm-hmm. There's Kevin Costner plays a small-time business owner or small business owner, and how he deals with his employees. And it was a response to, I think, the 2008 crash where people were losing jobs and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And terrible movie. I mean, it was obviously written in response to that, and it very felt much like a propaganda type film.
Yeah.
And it was disappointing because it had such a great cast.
Yeah, that's the difference between good historical storytelling and propaganda.
Yeah.
So agenda-driven kind of stuff. Okay, on to something blue. Something that blew our minds recently, or that blew chunks.
I got a blue chunks.
I do too.
Oh, right.
Because it's been a long time since I've had a blow chunks thing. So what's yours?
All right, Angie and I like to find a show to watch every now and then, like Breaking Bad or The Killing or Bloodline or something like that. And they all seem to be dark and there's murder and that kind of stuff. One that falls into that theme that came out recently on Netflix was Ozark.
Okay. I've breezed past that cover on Netflix.
Right. And I just had a brain lapse. The guy from...
Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman.
Oh,
Jeez.
yeah.
So he directs it. I'm sure he does some of the writing, but he stars in it. And husband and wife, 2 kids, living in Naperville, Illinois.
Really?
Oh.
He's a financial planner. The show starts out, and she's like, "Hey, it's just like us, right?" And then the wife does something just horrific, and she's like, "Oh, nope, this is not us." And so, but he's a money launderer for a drug cartel, and it's intriguing. It's very dark. It's not family oriented at all, and it's very draining. And the thing that made me blue chunks was there's so many holes. The whole time you're like, if you just did X, Y, and Z, you would have been fine.
Yeah.
How is this not obvious to you? But that happened over and over again.
So it's just they need to drive the plot a certain way, so they're blowing past obvious holes.
Yeah. And it just didn't make sense. Because the idea was a suburban family struggling financially. How do they get this opportunity to make a bunch of money, and they jump at the chance to launder money for a drug cartel? I'm like,
it sounds a little Breaking Bad-ish.
Right, but in Breaking Bad, he's literally dying.
Right.
He is desperate.
Yeah,
this
right.
family is not desperate.
Right, they had other, especially if you live in Naperville.
Exactly.
You've got other options.
Exactly. Their house was not. I'm like, what? I don't understand the disconnect here.
But they didn't set up the premise well.
No.
I saw an article about Ozark that said the worst thing about it is the good reviews.
Okay, my something blue is not really a media property that I've watched or engaged, or it's a news item.
All right.
That I'm upset about, that I think really blows.
A new okay.
That's related to the movie industry.
Oh.
At the end of 2018, Disney is withdrawing all of its films from Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
Did you hear this?
Yeah,
so all
yeah.
Disney, Pixar, Marvel, all that's going to be gone off of Netflix in about a year, because Disney's going to start their own streaming service.
Yeah.
And it's just, this is going to get so annoying, because what's happening, I feel like what's happening is we are going back in time to the age where there were 3 major television networks. And each of those networks had their slate of stars and shows and personalities. And the difference, though, is now every one of those networks is going to make you pay to watch them. So Netflix is developing all of its original content. And yeah, they'll always have other movies and stuff like that, but you're really going to end up watching Netflix for the Netflix content.
Yeah.
And then Disney's going to have their streaming service. And if you want to watch any Marvel, any Star Wars, any Pixar, any of that, you're going to have to go to their thing. And Apple will probably create one, or Amazon has theirs. I don't know who all the players are going to be, but it's getting annoying to me, because I don't want to keep paying like $7.99 or $8.99 or $10.99, whatever it is, to all these different services, when 2 years ago we got rid of cable
to save money.
And now it's going to come right back at me.
And it could potentially be more expensive.
And so this is super annoying to me.
Yeah.
I think that just blows chunks.
I would agree with that one. Yeah, I was disappointed. I'd heard that Netflix was trying to work with Disney on coming up with a deal. But on the other hand, on the positive side of that, because I would like to watch some shows on Amazon, but I'm just not subscribing right now, or I would like to see some stuff on Hulu, but I'm just, I don't have time to watch all these shows anyway, right? So I'm happy with Netflix. But with Disney, on Netflix, there's only a limited number of Disney films. And if they have a streaming service, then I can see all in theory, I could see all the ones I wanted to. And so I'm hoping that they just make a huge, content available that I wouldn't mind paying $10 for.
You know what? I have so little faith in Disney. I mean, they are conniving to come up with all kinds of new ways of screwing people out of their money in their parks. Like they are constantly raising prices to get into the Disney parks. But here's the real nasty thing they're doing now. They're testing a new service. Fast passes?
Yeah.
You've been to Disney, you get the fast pass.
Yep.
They're going to start charging for fast passes.
Do other parks already do that?
I don't know, but
I think they do.
You have to take out a mortgage to go to Disney World, and now they want to charge you to not have to stand in line all day.
Right, but isn't part of that because there's it's so crowded?
Exactly,
so you have to weed people out.
Fine, but they're gonna, you can watch these really crappy old Disney movies, but if you want to watch anything that's good,
right.
you got the Pixar upgrade or whatever, and then so I'm annoyed with this. I'm annoyed with it. I know I sound like anti-capitalist because there's probably a very good business reason to do this. Sure. And if I were a stockholder, I'd probably be thrilled with it.
Right.
But I'm annoyed.
I guess we'll have to see what happens.
I don't think we do.
All right.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us again this week. Let us know what movies in the fall you're really looking forward to. We're going to have to weed through all these and pick out which ones we're actually going to review. So give us your recommendations. You can do that on Twitter, on our Facebook pages, on my website, which is slowly being repaired. One other new thing, many of you, some of you have supported my ministry through donations. Anybody who does ends up getting on the subscription list for my daily devotional. But we have a new way that you can support me that will cost you nothing. Can you believe that?
Man, I'm in.
Here it is.
All right.
So you go to my website, skyjatani.com, and there's a link to donate, and you go to the bottom of that page, and you can sign up for Amazon Smile.
I've heard of this. What is it?
So Amazon Smile is a service where when you register for it, every purchase you make on Amazon gives 0.5% to whatever charity you designate. And I do my work under a nonprofit ministry called Measure the Clouds. So if you designate Measure the Clouds Ministries as your designated Amazon Smile thing, then every time you make a purchase, it costs you nothing. The prices are all the same for anything you purchase. The money comes from Amazon. They make a donation to my ministry, believe it or not.
I think Amazon is the one we need to be afraid of. They are taking over the world.
But here's the catch. There is one little catch. So, like, your Amazon account is exactly the same. The site's all that.
Do you have to be subscribed to Prime or something like that?
No, you don't have to subscribe to Prime. The difference is if you go to the regular Amazon website or the Amazon app and make your purchases, it doesn't count.
Oh.
You actually have to go to AmazonSmile.com.
Smile.amazon.
Smile, but there's a little extension if you use Chrome. There's a little extension you can download into your Chrome browser that every time you go to Amazon, it automatically takes you to Amazon Smile.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have to worry about it. But that, if anybody is interested in kind of supporting what I do without costing you anything, that would be like awesome if you sign up for it.
I'm in.
Yeah, isn't that like?
I'm going to start a charity.
So anyway, check that out on my website or Amazon Smile.
I have two things.
You have two
Put
things.
a link in the description.
Thank you
that's
very
a good
much.
idea. All right. Number one, I found out that there are several listeners that did not realize that we are also on YouTube. And so you can actually watch this. And if you go to the Phil Vischer channel, so if you look Phil Vischer up on YouTube and you find his channel, that's where you're going to see all the Phil Vischer podcasts and movie proposal podcasts on YouTube, so you can watch it. And then I'm going to go ahead and make a plug for myself. One of the things that I do is I do free educational workshops on finance. So I go to businesses, churches, community organizations, do an hour presentation. It's fun, it's educational, it's free.
And it's your front for laundering money to drug cartels. So help them keep up appearances, guys.
I didn't like Ozark, but it was educational. So.
All right, so thank you guys for joining us again. Until next time, you can kiss this episode goodbye.
Jennifer, this is fabulous liqueur.
Reminds me of the moonshine Ricky's dead pappy used to make.
God bless him.
Mrs. Smith, no, wait! Gee, I'm real sorry your mom blew up, Ricky.